Hello. Okay, we're gonna try this. This is the third time I've attempted to do this, so I'm very sorry if you tuned in the last two times I tried to go live and it didn't turn out. I ended up taking down those two live streams. I'll explain that why. But first of all, just so you know, we're going to talk about Hex-Ed, which is book two of Sarina Dorie's Wombi School for Wayward Witches, which is really hard for me to say with my current speech affliction. I'm coming off of tongue cancer, so I've had a lot of radiation done, and a lot of my mouth is damaged, so I don't speak as well as I used to. Hopefully, that will get better over time. So let's take care of a few things. First of all, here's my intro. Who am I? My name is Cody Singdahl. I am the author that you know. I'm the author of 6 novels. I'm writing my 7th right now. A free novella that you can get just by signing up for my email subscriber list. That's down below in the description. And a couple of nonfiction works as well. Everything's on Amazon. The description or the link for that is down below. Also, if you want to read my review yourself, the link to it is down below. So we're going to try a few things different this time. So I had a lot of different ideas when I decided to start doing live. But my main thing is that I wanted to I used to be an on-air talent. I wanted to kind of keep that skill to a certain degree, even though I've lost my TV voice for sure. But also just to stay on top of that. Also, I would like to build a YouTube channel. I don't have any delusions or grandeur. By the way, now that I'm saying that, please like and subscribe and leave me a comment. And I'll reply to it. And so I would like to build up this platform more. This is actually YouTube is my first social media platform that I had a presence on, and was I did this first before I got into Facebook and then everything else. And I've done a lot of different things. I've done from guitar demo videos to this being a dumping ground of my on-air work when I worked at Channel 4 in Nashville, to all sorts of things. So now what I'm doing is I'm writing novels, which is where I belong. It's where I'm going to be for the rest of my life. I've written, like I said, I'm writing my 7th one now. So this is part book marketing, part just sharpening a skill and learning some social media marketing. Now, initially, when I started doing this, I had this idea of having other people on, which maybe someday I might do, but having other guests on just so I can interview them, and also to be able to share a screen so I can talk about something and show you what I'm talking about. And I ended up going with StreamYards. And in the beginning, it worked just fine. There was a little StreamYard logo burned into I guess on this side, burned into the top of the, I guess, top right of the screen. I didn't mind that so much. But through that, I could bring people on. I could pull up, like, for example, we're going to talk about Sarina Dorie's book Hex-Ed. The cover of it, of which is on the thumbnail of this. Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone so you can see what it looks like. And but in the beginning, everything was fine, but then I started noticing with some of my broadcasts that maybe it happened one time before, and let's see if there's no cover here. Okay, well, that's not going to work. Doesn't matter. So I noticed that I was having signal problems, and the signal was dropping out. It was freezing. I was playing back the broadcast and seeing that there were long stretches of silence or frozen, or I got knocked off, or the sound quality was so bad that I just could not leave it up there. So I took it down. It's really embarrassing because what I was doing is, before I went live, I would let everybody know by sharing it out onto my social media. after trying to do this one twice and both times it being a failure, I said, okay, well, let's see what happens if I don't use StreamYards. So just so you understand, so YouTube has the ability to go live in all the platforms too. And for some reason, the other platforms will allow you to have guests on, and it'll allow you to have the share screen, but not YouTube. And so you have to go to a third party like StreamYards, and StreamYards has a free version of it. And I was wondering if by using a third party software, if I was creating too many turns for the for the data to flow, and that's why I was having trouble with my streaming because it was just too much to stream to go through StreamYards and then have StreamYards process it and then send it back to YouTube. So this is really an experiment. So nobody may, like right now, there's nobody watching, at least not watching live, and that's because I haven't announced it anywhere. So I want to see if this comes cleanly, and at least I can do this, and then we'll see if this starts working out. Then maybe I might start showing on the other platforms, like, hey, come join me live. I don't know how I'm going to be able to share screens or even have a guest on. So, you know, this is an ever evolving situation, I suppose. So, anyway, let's. So we're going to do a couple of things. One is we'll do the review, and then I'll just tell you a little bit about what's going on with me. So anyway, Hex-Ed, and I'm so sorry I can't even show it to you, but like I said, if you click on my review below, you can see there's even a preview of the book itself, so you can read a little bit and buy it right there in my blog post. But here's the title: Funny, sexy, scary, playful, and childlike and deep. I'm surprised how much I'm enjoying the series, especially since it's outside my usual military historical fiction genre. I was originally drawn to the whimsical artwork on the covers. What what's inside did not disappoint me. Sarina Dorie is definitely writing her passion, and sometimes I even wonder if she's a witch herself. I was surprised by the second Wombi School for Wayward Witches novel, so much so that I had to check the genre. It's not a young adult fantasy as I had assumed, but rather a new adult and college fantasy, which makes a lot more sense to me now that I've read some of the more spicy scenes. They're still tasteful, but whoa, Dory goes there and it's a lot of fun. Hex-Ed picks up a few years after Tardy Bells and Witches Spells. Carissa Lawrence is all grown up now. She's no longer a nerdy high schooler, but a college student trying to act out a normal life after the tragic catastrophe at the end of the last book. She's been convinced that magic isn't real and that the things that she's seen and felt were nothing more than episodes of psychosis, and I'm going to take a water break. Part of my affliction is I'm not producing enough saliva. So all the medication and gaslighting cannot keep magic away, or the witchkin and evil fae who either want to enslave her, drain her of her power, or destroy her altogether. Clarissa needs to learn the nature of her strange talents and how to control them before the forces of evil have their way. Hex-Ed is a fun short read. The print length is listed at 172 pages. I read it in a week and thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. Dorie is a funny, witty writer who knows how to build a scene that bubbles over into hilarious chaos. She expertly leads you along with teasing and foreshadowing, rendering the story a real page turner. I have the first 8 books of the series, which I'm with 2 down. I'm excited to read on. Okay, so that's the review. Yeah, a couple of things is I thought this was young adult, and young adult is 12 to 18 years old, and then new adult in college is basically 18, college age, 18 to probably 22. And of course, a lot of adults now read young adult and new adult. If you want an example of what young adult is, that is Harry Potter. It's written for kids, but a lot of adults enjoy it and read it and watch the movies. This series is a lot like, I wouldn't call it a knockoff, but it has is it's very much influenced by Harry Potter, but it's also different, but it is a school, which we haven't really seen the school yet. But it revolves around a school that is for witches, and I think predominantly female witches, but there are male characters, male witches too, and males with magic. So it's kind of like Harry Potter, but it's witches, not wizards. The main character is a young lady, although there are male witches. So I guess, yeah, and male witch protagonists, and it takes place in Oregon, at least in the Morty world. Morty meaning mortals, is in Oregon, in the United States. So I was originally attracted to it. I think Sarina Dorie followed me on Instagram, and then I followed her back, and probably followed me to find followers, because that's what people do on Instagram. They follow a bunch of people and then hope all those people follow them back. And I liked the artwork for the books. They looked really fun. Looked kind of, I would say, a little alluring, a little sassy. Like the one that really that caught my eye was a very attractive, a cartoonish, in a very cartoonish, clunky way, a witch, an attractive female witch on a broom, and she's riding a broom, and she's wearing like a frilly skirt, and she's wearing striped stockings with garter belts. And I was like, whoa. And I think even then I was like, that seems a little spicy for a young adult, and because I just assumed it was. And I read the first book, which is Tardy Bells and Witches Spells, and it was good, and it was something that I would be comfortable giving a young adult to read. But there were some things that I thought was like, whoa, I can't believe this is in this. Like, for example, they go to a state fair, there are women walking around topless, but their breasts are their body painted top up, and their, I guess their nipples are covered with stickers or something like that. And then pasties, I guess they're called. And there's the characters don't, but there's pot smoking in it. And at the end, there is kind of a, she's making out with her boyfriend, and it's getting kind of hot and heavy. And this is what's causing some of the magic to happen, to become out of control. And I thought that was a little risque too, for what I thought the genre was, or the target audience. Then I read Hex-Ed, where the main character is now in college, so she's of age, and boy, like now we're I wouldn't say it's not over the top, but definitely, like, there are sexual things happening and sexual humor in it. And I was like, wait a minute, and a couple of things happened. I was like, okay. And then there was something like, wait a minute, okay, hang on. So I had to go back to the sales page and look at the listed genres, and it's not listed as young adult. It's listed as new adult. And then I looked up what new adult meant, and that's 18 to through college. So okay, now it makes a lot of sense. And just to be clear, that this is not pornographic, but you only need to be 18 years old to either consume or perform in pornography. I think 18. Maybe not. No, I think it's 18. So nothing of it is untoward when you talk about this genre. So, but it's a lot of fun. I mean, and I won't, like I said, it's not heavy-handed in that, but it's not shy about it either. So, if you don't mind that, or if you kind of dig it, I do. I have two of my novels. Almost all my novels have some kind of romantic and sexual thing happen in it, and two of them I purposely push the limits on it, but it's tied into the plot, and I think it's necessary. Mexico, My Love, and The French Fiasco both have sexual scenes that are maybe I purposely are pushing it a little bit, but still trying to stay within the realm of good taste. So I am no prude. So anyway, I really enjoyed the book. The other thing is so like I said, I was interested in her work because of the they say judge book by its title, and I I wanted just to read the first one, and usually that's all I do because I have so much to read that it's really hard for me to like invest my time and effort into a series. But she was giving away a box set of the first 5 books for free. And I was like, okay, well, I wanted to read one, and this is free, so I'll take all 5. I read the first one, and I really liked it, and then I ended up like book 6, 7, and 8. She had for free for a minute, and so I scooped those up too. And I had to tell myself, okay, stop downloading books that are free because usually when they're free, they're only free for like 5 days. And I said, okay, and until you get past all these other books, stop doing that. And then what happened after that? Oh yeah, I read the first one. I really liked it, and so I had another series that I'm reading, and so I'm reading one series, and then another book, and then one of Dorie's series, and then another book. But when I came back around to Dorie to read book 2, I thought to myself, I really don't have to force myself because I have so much to read. I don't have to force myself to read this. But I looked at it; it was only 170 something pages, and I liked the first one, so I said, I'll give it a chance. And if I don't like it, I can quit it. I ended up liking it, and so now I'm back on with reading the whole thing. So that's it. Sarina Dorie's Hex-Ed is book 2 of the Wambi's School for Word Wishes. Is really hard for me to say with my affliction. So if you're interested in that, if you like Harry Potter and that kind of world and storytelling, this is first person narrative. I think you'll really like it. She's very funny. There's a lot of twists and turns, a lot of unexpected things. Like I said in my review, she's really good at building up scenes that unravel into chaos. It's really funny how she does it. So I really liked it. What's going on with me? So, so I have kind of a process. I have all sorts of processes, and one is that when I finish a novel or a book, I give myself about a month from the release date to when I start the next one. And so when I finished the French Fiasco in April, I decided that instead of moving to the next novel, I would write my novella as a reader magnet for my email list, my subscriber list. And, the idea behind that is I'm giving it away in order to get people to sign up for the email list. And then why do I want to do that? Because as I have new books coming out, I want to tell people on that subscriber list that, hey, I got a new book coming out. So that's the whole reason. And then it's easy advertising to people who want to know when you have a new book out. It's better advertising than just posting on Facebook because not everybody sees your Facebook posts, or paying for ads on Facebook or Amazon. These are people who have signed up to get emails from you to tell them that you have a new book out. So, so I wrote it, and it was very important for me to write that, to treat that as important as any of my other novels, even though it's a novella. So it's only about a quarter or a fifth as long as my other novels. And the result was I wrote a novel or novella that I'm really proud of. It's some of my best writing yet. I love the story. I hope more people read it. I just saw today that someone new has signed up for my email subscriber list and has downloaded the book. So I hope that person is enjoying it and sticks around to read more things as I publish them. Because I'll tell you right now, I have so much planned. I have more than the next 10 books planned out, like what I'm writing next and how I'm going to go. And even though that is the novella, which is called The Underground Railroad Ball, is not something that that directly makes money. It's an investment that will pay back dividends over time as people get on my email list for years and years and years to come. Read that, and it's also a step into the first book, Rampage on the River. So it was well worth my time, and well worth my time to take that little break in between novels to write that and put that out. But then I finished that July 29th, and so I said, okay. And like I said, I treated it just like a regular novel. So that means that July 29th, I would start the new novel, and that is Black James. And that is going to be an epic generational saga. It is, the main character in it is James, who is mentioned in The Perils of Perryville and Blood for Blood at Nashville, which are book 2 and 3 of my series. And then he's in the prequel, which is book 4, Mexico, My Love, and he makes a huge entrance there. And it was always my idea when I first conceived of the character in writing The Perils of Perryville, that I would do this, that I would bring him into Mexico, My Love in a very big way. And then after writing the Prussian Prince and the French Fiasco were supposed to be one book. And then I realized when I was writing the Prussian Prince, I really had enough material for 2 books. So I made it just 2 separate novels because there was just so much of it. And I'm glad I did, because otherwise it would have been a 200,000 word. Let's see, the Prussian Prince was 76,000 words. And also, the story of the Prussian Prince really comes to a full conclusion. And so doing that and then starting the second half or whatever, it was just a new book. So I was like, okay, the Prussian Prince, 76,000 words, and then the French Fiasco, which is the second half of that kind of 2-book saga, was 109,000 words. So that worked out pretty well. And so the Black James is, like I said, it's a generational saga. I am one book that I'm using as inspiration is one of my favorite authors. I used to say one of my favorite living authors, but I found out that he died in 2022. Is James Carlos Blake, who's a fabulous writer, and he wrote a book called The Country of the Bad Wolves. And I pronounce it that way because he spells it the way. Wolves being WOLFE, WOLFE, wolf, and then plural, wolves, because the family, that's the family name. And it starts in 1797 with the birth of the grandfather, and it tells his story. And then he leaves behind 2 sons or twins, tells their story. And then there's one of the twins, he has 3 sons, but they both have kids, and and 2 of his sons are twins. And I'm reading it for the second time now, which it's been long enough that I've forgotten. And now I'm reading, like the first time I read it, I wasn't a writer, but now I'm reading it as an author, trying to learn from it because I liked the pacing in it and how he told the story and how he spans such a lot. Because I think it goes all the way, it goes all the way into the 20th century. So it starts in 1797 and ends in the early 20th century. So I thought that was, and there's at least 3 generations in it. So I thought that was fascinating. It's what I want to do with Black James. So Black James starts with James's father and I guess his grandfather in Africa, and they're part of the Iwe tribe fighting against the Homie. And it goes into that, and the transatlantic slavery and the War of 1812. And right now the plan is for the book to go all the way into like 1846. And it's a big epic story. So I started officially writing that Friday. And what I mean by officially is I was picking away at it. I was doing some plotting. I did some initial writing of some scenes and fleshing some things out. But starting last Friday, now I'm holding myself accountable. And I have a whole system of how I hold myself accountable for like daily word count, weekly word count and monthly word count quotas. I'm giving myself up to 2 years to write it, but I'm now thinking, because I thought it was going to be a big, long, epic, like 120,000 plus. But now that I've kind of plotted out and I know where it's going to go, now that I plotted it out and that I broke it into 4 parts, and my parts are like novellas, and so if my parts are anything like the parts I've written in other novels or my novella, then they'll be roughly around 20,000 per part. So it looks like I might hit my magic number, and I think that 80,000 is like the perfect Goldilocks number of novels. I have novels that are shorter than 80,000. I have novels that are over. I have 3 novels that are over 100,000 words, and I have 3 novels that are under 80,000 words. That are between. The shortest one is the first one, 54,000 or 56,000. And yeah, I think it was 56,000, 69,000, 76,000. Those are my 3 shorter ones, and then my longer ones are 109, 119, 126. So I'm on either side of that 80,000, like that 80 to 85,000 word. And the one that's 76,000 words, that's the Partial Prince. That's about right. But I would like to get somewhere between, I'd like to land somewhere between 80 and 90. That would be perfect. But if it has to be longer, it can be. As long as it's over 50,000 words, I'm going to call it a novel. A novella to me is like 20,000 to 40,000. And then a novelette would be like 7,500 words to 15,000, I guess. A novelette is basically a short story that's broken into chapters. A novella is like a short novel that is, very singular, focused on a plot, very tight. They're fun to write, and I realized I've been writing them all along. They're what I call parts, except in Mexico, My Love, I called them acts, but everything else, like Perils of Perryville, is in 2 parts. The Blood for Blood at Nashville, I think, is in 3 parts. I can't remember now. I think Mexico, My Love is in 3 acts, and then Rampage and The Prussian Prince are straight through. It's just one straight through story. And then The French Fiasco is in 5 parts, I believe. The Affair, Atrocities. I can't remember. I can't remember. But I've learned my own pacing, like my without even trying. My chapters tend to be around 3,000 words. I wrote tighter, shorter chapters when I wrote The Underground Railroad Ball. Right now, I'm allowing, because I want the chapters to be a unit of storytelling. And so the chapters have to kind of tell a story in of themselves. Sometimes there's a part 1 and part 2 of a story. But to think of chapters as episodes, whether it's, the way they used to write novels back in the 19th century and the 20th century, where they wrote them as serials that appeared in the newspaper, or to think of it as like a modern day Netflix series, where each chapter is like an hour-long episode that people are watching, that has its own, beginning, middle, and end, but is part of the bigger story. And then so basically you have chapters, and then chapters are part of parts, and then the parts are part of the novels. But there's even further breakdowns than that, because in my head I'm always thinking in 3s. So my novels always have or the stories always have like a 3-act part, a beginning, middle, and end. So for me, like, the beginning is introducing the characters, the world they're in, and the problem, and the end of Act 1 is the introduction of the problem. Then the middle part, the middle act, is like the development. So as the characters are trying to work out the problem, come up with solutions, and fail, and then usually they get knocked on their butt, and then the beginning of the third act is they have a new plan, and here we go. We're gonna ride this thing through, and then the denouement, which is like a falling off action after the big climax. But I kind of put that 3-act feeling into the parts as well. So, but acts are, I realized after, because I was using that word interchangeably, but with acts and parts. But then I realized, it came to the conclusion is acts are really something that's in my head as a writer, not something that I'm pointing out to the reader. I'm pointing out chapters and parts. And one of the reasons why I do that is to give the reader goals that are achievable. So if you wrote like a book that had no chapters and no parts and just straight through prose, you're gonna lose people. But to give them breaks in the story where they can kind of like, okay, that's enough for tonight, and come back to it. And I even have scene breaks. So like, the paragraphs are stacked right on top of each other, unless there's a scene break, and then there's a space that kind of lets you know, okay, scene break, something else, now we're up to something new. And then I also think about when I write, I heard people talk about this too, that some people write novels where it's just one big story and everything is that big story. And that is kind of a more of a modern approach to it, as like just writing the novel as a whole. But I see that there are stories within stories within stories. So to me, the basic smallest story that you write is a scene. And a scene itself has a beginning, middle, and end, and has a little bit of a completion, because there's a reason why you're having that scene, right? And then you build a chapter is built on a collection of scenes that make up the chapter. And once again, that chapter tells a story into itself, and it has a beginning, a middle, and end. And then I might have a story arc that lasts a few chapters within a part. And so that has a beginning, middle, and end. And then the part has a beginning and middle and end. And then stringing all those parts together into a novel has a beginning, middle, and end. And then I don't really think about it as far as, beginning, middle, and end when it comes to the series. But the series has definitely an overall story as well. Like, my series it's basically the story of Carl, from, if you put him in chronological order, from him being born in North Africa to well, I'll just give it away if you made it this far into the video. We will go all the way up into World War One with him, and then there's a lot more that I have planned. In fact, what I've decided to do, first of all, Black James is connected to the series because there's a character taken from the series, but I'm giving him his own book. So I'm not calling it book 7 of the series. It's an auxiliary book. So we'll see how that works. And I've also heard that, sometimes if your first series doesn't do great, sometimes it's your second or third one. So I've decided that I've written 6 books of my series, and I've been happy so far with the result. But I want to start creating places where I could start a new series if I wanted to. And I did a lot. I was chatting with ChatGTP and Grok, I think, and ask him about my trajectory, like having a look at my sales and how I've been growing since I started, and telling it what my plans are and things like that. And one thing it said about me was that I have a small but dedicated readership. So thank you very much if you're part of that. And I'm happy with that, because it says I'm a very niche writer, and that's true. I didn't, I made a decision a while back that it's not so much of chasing commercial success as it is really writing what I want to write, and finding that audience that wants to read that. In other words, the big publishers, they're looking for people who are writing, and I've said it a million times, say it with me, Romans, Vikings, or Nazis. And what I mean by that is the top of the genres that I fall into, the top 100 books in the top 100, and by top 100 means by sales. Those books are either about Romans, medieval, that's what I mean by Viking, but Romans, Middle Ages, or World War II. I think World War II is actually the most popular of the genre, which is historical fiction, military historical fiction, or action adventure historical fiction. But those three are winners. So, the American Civil War does pretty well, but it's kind of niche, and the people who are real big fans of it are not novel readers. They read nonfiction, and so most of the readers of those novels are people that are more into historical fiction and military historical fiction, as opposed to being diehard Civil War fans. That makes sense. But the other wars that I've written about, the Mexican War, the Austro-Prussian War, which no one knows about, and the Franco-Prussian War, if you look at novels written about those books, novels written about those wars, there's not a lot out there. Why? Because there's not a huge demand for it. And I mean, like the Austro-Prussian War, the only other novel I've seen anybody write about was Alexander Dumas, who wrote a novel called the Prussian Terror, which I've read. I think he wrote it in 1867 while the war was happening, and then he died. So that was like maybe the last guy. So me and Dumas are the two guys that have written novels about the Austro-Prussian War, which is sad because it's fascinating. The Battle of Königgrätz is awesome, man. And I felt like I did a good job. I think I spent like 5 chapters writing about that battle in and of itself. It's a big battle and it's cool. And a lot of cool things happen to it. I have several ideas. The one that it thought that Black James might actually have a lot more commercial success than the other ones, because it's a diverse character, because James is Black, and there's piracy and things like that in it. So that might catch fire. I'm not planning on it to. I mean, I'd love for it. I'm planning on it doing as well or better than what I've written so far. But being my big breakout hit, we'll see. I'll take it if it happens. But 2 different AI models seem to think that one has legs as far as commercial appeal and bringing in a bigger audience. So I have 4 more books with Carl that I want to write that are in the Long Century series, which is the series I've been writing. But I have a lot of other ideas too. I have an American Revolutionary War, a French Revolutionary War, a Haitian Revolutionary War, which I might be tying to the French Revolutionary War as a series. And I have an interbellum series that takes place in Berlin between World War I and World War II. I got a lot of different ideas that I want to try out. And of all of these, the AI seems to think that the Napoleonic stuff might be a hit for me because it's very popular, and it fits in to the audience that I'm already writing to. But there's more of them out there that really like Napoleonic stuff. Napoleonic is probably, it's one of my favorite, if not my most favorite. I think if I have to pick one, Napoleonic is probably my most favorite. I also like War of the Roses, in England, basically 1400s England. I'm fascinated with that. I like medieval stuff. I like World War II. I think it's cool. I like anything that's swashbucklery, like Renaissance, basically anything Renaissance to World War II. very interested. I also like Vietnam, and I also like modern day war books and science science fiction military, like Space Marine stuff. I like that too. But anyway, so what I've decided to do is, originally my plan was to just prod on with the Long Century and finish it, with the 4 novels I want to do after Black James. I've decided to, because there's enough of it now, and the French Fiasco is a good capstone, is to alternate at this point. So I'm going to do a Black James book, and don't hold me to this, I might change my mind, but the plan is right now I'm going to do a Black James book. Then I have a Middle Eastern adventure for Carl, and then I'm going to do my French. I have a great idea for my French Revolution Napoleonic, but I have a French Revolution book, which may be book 1 of a series, and Black James could be book 1 of a series if it gets really popular. Then I have a Western for, like cowboys, out in the American West for Carl. And all of this is working towards a bigger story that ends in World War I, by the way. And then after that, I have a great idea for the Haitian Revolution, and that was going to be a standalone book, but I might work that into my French Revolution Napoleonic series if that really takes off. And then I'll do that book, and then I'll come back and I have a Japanese adventure that I have planned. And then after that, I may have a 3rd French or a Napoleonic book. We'll see. We'll see how that is going. That one remains open. And then, or maybe I might just go right into it. But then I have a World War I book that is going to finish the whole, what I call the Carliad, the whole Carl Smith saga. And that one I'm very excited about. I already got a lot of it. I have some of it even written. So that one is going to be a big capstone to the whole thing. And then after that, we'll see. I might write more French Revolution, Napoleon stuff. If Black James has the demand, I might write more of those. I have some ideas for going back into the Renaissance, into like Central and Eastern Europe. So, we'll see. Anyway, thank you for watching. I love you guys. If you're a writer, keep writing. If you're a reader, keep reading. And we'll see how this one works out. I'm going to play it back and listen to it. If it's okay, I'm going to share it. And then I might be doing the videos like this until I figure out a better solution.